background, and Folmer is still active as a researcher. We've been working a lot as research managers in different countries, from the northern countries down to Australia. And we are still helping people out in Europe with ERC applications, for example. So that's our background. And what we're going to do now is to give you sort of a background, and then afterwards also show you the tool itself and how it functions and what it can provide for you. We say that most proposals do not fail due to the science. It's more how they're written. So the communication is bad in some way. Researchers, they struggle to communicate, and they can fall into so many traps when they are writing. Boring writing style, aims that are vague and not perfectly aligned with what they are going to do. And they lack the support. The bulk of the researchers have no support at all. And research managers, well, they're few. They can't help everyone. So one-to-one is not possible at all. So they help a selected few to write better applications. And at some universities, people don't have the competence or the knowledge to go into deep feedback on proposals. We try to help also another way at Profectus. We have workshops for early career researchers and also for research managers, where we take another approach to teaching people how to learn about writing your applications. So we use real applications from a real funder and set up small review panel groups among the early career researchers. So they get a bunch of proposals to read, and then they sit in a review panel and go through them and try to score them and rank them and decide who will get the money and who will not get the money. And afterwards, we compare the evaluations they have with the real evaluations from the real group, the review panels. What happened here now? I got stalled. Oh, yeah, again. And amazingly, we see that people very quickly learn to distinguish between approved and rejected proposals, which ones are good and which ones are bad. It takes a bit of a training, but afterwards they know very well and can spot a good proposal from a bad one very easily. And that made us start to think about, can we do something with AI here? Can AI do the same thing? There was a small test we did, and we found out that the generic ones, they're not too bad, but they do not understand the reviewer mindset. They can't be the grumpy reviewer that you want beside you to help you write a better application. And they focus on general writing and not research proposals, so they can't fix you the scientific narrative. And they have difficulties also understanding what the funders are really looking for. So then we trained an AI ourselves. And Folmer, how did we do that?
Yeah, so so on this slide you see a schematic of the training process. Now technically this wouldn't be called training, but this would be called like both fine-tuning and prompt engineering. So because we have given these workshops for like quite a while, for every workshop we obtained research proposals from real funders with the real evaluation. So after a while we were having quite a like database of research proposals. And of course when everybody was starting to use AI, we thought, okay, this is a treasure trove, right? We can make use of this, because our earliest attempts, they were actually quite funny. You submit a research proposal to, well, whatever it is, Gemini or ChatGPT, and you ask for a critical review, and oh yeah, this is great, fantastic, and absolutely splendid. Well, that is not really what real reviewers have to say. So we really needed these expert evaluations that we had to tune a GPT model so that it like has the same level of, let's call it, grumpiness as a critical reviewer. At the same time, we also use this database to like identify differences between low and high quality proposals. Of course, we had our own expertise, so we kind of knew what we were looking for. But if you have lots of lots of data, you can go like at a slightly deeper level. So all of that together we use to develop informative prompts. There's a lot of like trial and error testing when it comes to prompt engineering. Some prompts work pretty well, others don't, but it takes a lot of effort to get something that consistently works reasonably well. And so all of that together we put into this custom AI, which then in the end gives you pretty high quality feedback, and especially it gives it very fast. So compared to like us reading a research proposal, this is of course way faster.
Yes. So what we did was to train it on real proposals and reviews, and what we get is high value feedback. It suggests improvements can be used on any research field so far that we've been testing. Is also understanding the structure, how to build a good structure of your proposal. So it gives you examples and templates how to get you done. It also understand how reviewers act and how grumpy they can be, and also what the funders are looking for. So is it really that good then, you may ask? And here is one example of a proposal that was reviewed by the review panel. You see that in blue to the left. And here the feedback from the reviewers. And the next is the AI feedback. And to the right, you see the overlap of the feedback. And if you go through the comments from the review panel, you see that the feedback from the AI very much matches what the real panel said. There are some exceptions, for example, lack of reflection on alternative strategies or approaches. I don't think that AI will ever catch that. And I have rarely seen that coming as a feedback also from review panels. But it picks up that things are limited preliminary data, for example. Work plan is not very clear. Weakness in the design of the human study. So all the important things are there that the feedback that the AI can pick up and give feedback to the researcher. So it's really, really good. And Folmer, you did a small.
Yeah, so just this afternoon, I just wanted to give you a little bit of a feeling. So I put 10 proposals from a funder that it had never seen before. And so it hadn't seen the proposals, and it had never seen the funder before. And I uploaded a proposal of which I knew, because I asked for some more data a few days ago. So I knew what the panel had said about it, whether it was approved or rejected. And I didn't put in the reviewer comments, of course. I just put in the proposal. And then I wanted to see, like, does the AI, if I ask the AI, so given the criteria for funding, and like given that just like 20 to 24% of these proposals are being funded, do you think this would be funded or rejected? So of the 3 approved proposals, it identified one immediately. So I gave them a 1 by 1. I didn't give it a set of 10 at once. I gave them 1 by 1. But so one of those proposals, it immediately said that this would probably be funded. Of the 2 other funded ones, it said it was borderline. So it saw that they were good, but it still identified some issues. In all the other cases, all the rejected ones, it suggested that it needed improvement. So I had a hard time telling it to be very specific and to just say reject or approve, because that's not what our method has been. Our AI tool has been developed for. It's been developed to give feedback. But I thought this was a pretty good score. I mean, it is clearly picking out the same proposals, and as Anders just showed, also the same kinds of criticism that reviewers are picking at. Yeah, so it may be good to point out like what it is and what it isn't. So we have developed this using real proposals and like our own feedback, the comments from reviewers, and our knowledge about like how to write a proper proposal. So this is not a grant writing robot. This is not something that comes up with new ideas and just generates a full proposal with original ideas. It is trained to take an existing proposal and to tell you how to improve it. It is also not a replacement for peer review. It can provide some expert feedback. It has been fine-tuned on full proposals, and especially the new version that is still in the pipeline will also like consult the scientific databases on the internet to provide expert feedback, but it is not as good as real experts. So it is very much on the generic level and the structure. So the main advantage with it is like if you're supposed to provide feedback on a proposal, the first thing is you're going to read it, and reading a proposal easily takes like a couple of hours, and during that time nothing happens to the proposal. After that, you can start to point out common problems, because almost certainly you will identify them, and that's where actually the proposal starts to be better. The problem for many research managers is that you have to do that over and over again, because many people make the same mistakes. And after that, you can start revising important parts. And like I put the colors here and the different steps a little bit like schematics. Some things take more time than others, but these are essentially the steps. And as you spend more time on it, the returns are diminishing, because you will be working with smaller and smaller details. Now, because it takes a lot of time to read, and actually also quite some time to even address the most important parts, like many people don't have the time to help every individual researcher with individual projects that they are working on. So many research managers actually end up working on large projects. So Anders, if you can change to the next slide. And that is also something like we have, I think, as research managers, adopted to what is technically possible. And you cannot technically read like 100 proposals a month and give feedback on them. That's just not going to happen. However, like I just like earlier, I was responsible for like research intelligence at a university, so I had a lot of data. I just took an average medium-sized university, pretty many employees, and not that many research staff, of course, and not too many research managers either. But this university sent yearly roughly 286 proposals to one funder, 76 to another, 55 to yet another, and you can of course like make that list of funders a bit longer. So lots of individual project grant applications going out, which account for about 70% of all external funding. But the research managers aren't working on all of that because they simply can't. So they have to prioritize, and they work on like prestigious things, perhaps some ERC applications. But that's not necessarily the smartest thing to do if you actually have the possibility with AI to quickly process all these like 300 or 400 individual proposals. Because if you send out like over 400 applications and like on average about 400 kilo euros per grant, then even if this tool would increase the funding rate with just like 1/1000th of a percent, it would like recur the license fee. So just to show, like, not to make commercial for like we have a very cheap tool or something, but just the calculations become entirely different if you can actually quickly process lots of individual project grants, which is what this tool has been developed for. So you may like, this is something that a question that would definitely pop up in the questions and the answers otherwise. So we decided to address it already. How does it work? Well, you take a document, you upload it. It first goes to our server. After that, we like process it a little bit and move it on to ChatGPT, which we currently use. That may change in the future, but currently we use ChatGPT. And we don't use the data because we have like reviewed proposals of which we already know what the reviewers had to say. So a new proposal is not really valuable to us. ChatGPT states in their agreement that they do not use the data either. At the end of the session, all data is immediately deleted. So you do not store anything either on our server or at OpenAI, which also means that if you want to check this proposal again, you will have to re-upload it, and you will also have to upload a transcript of your earlier interaction with our tool. So you can actually, like, there is an option, I can show you in a minute, that there is an option to upload a previous conversation with the tool.
And now we come to the tool itself. Folmer, you have it going, have you?
Yes, actually, I have it open here, so I can show like how easy it is to use.
So we just would like to say that we are proud that we are in the finals for this award. So hopefully on 9th of December, we will be standing there, or you will be standing there at least.
Yeah, let's see what happens.
Yeah, so we hope for that. Interesting process at least.
So shall I see if I can share my screen
Yep.
to show how this tool actually, let's see if I can do that. Let me see, I will select a window and I think I'll select this one. So can you see my web page now? Okay, so this is when you go to this address, you will need to log in. I can give you login credentials in a moment. Then this is what you will see. We actually have a more basic version of this as well, but that for you research managers, that's not really relevant. That's more for researchers who want to use the tool and just get a quick check of their proposal. So if you want, you can click and get some help and instructions. There is some brief explanation, but it is quite intuitive. Essentially, you just choose a research proposal file. I can choose this one. I worked on it this afternoon. So you can upload multiple files for just showing what it does. I'm not going to do that, but like when you try it for yourself, you can upload, for instance, a call text for this particular call. The things go to. You can upload instructions for reviewers. I'm going to upload the criteria for funding instead, and I have them here. I know that this is for the proper call. So here I have the assessment criteria, but you can also upload like a guide for applicants. And you can also, if these are PDF documents online, you can also simply give the web address to the PDF file. You can also upload custom files. You could, for example, upload an example of an earlier application to this particular call that was successful. Like giving AI examples is often a very good idea to guide its behavior. And then, like in the basic version, there is only one option, like it's just a default check. But in this somewhat more sophisticated version, you have like, if you uploaded reviewer comments in the previous version, you can ask it to suggest how to address them. You can also ask if the proposal actually matches the call text. In this case, I will ask it to evaluate the proposal as a critical reviewer, and it will then take into account the assessment criteria. And now I hope that this is going to work, because just at the latest moment, there seem to be some server issues with OpenAI, I said, but I'm just going to upload the files. So now it is uploading the files. It is modifying them a little bit to our server. Now they are uploaded, and now I can start the analysis simply by clicking this button. And what it does is it will start with the default check that I selected. Then it will, hopefully, if everything works, it will also go through like a critical assessment as a reviewer. And then afterwards, we will always have the possibility to ask our own questions. So let's see whether this is actually working now. Yeah, so at least so far this is going well. It has read that the current aim, well, this seems to be a medical one, that it is slightly weak, because it has this broad phrase that it says to increase the understanding, which reviewers typically don't like. It's not very precise or scientific. So it has read the entire proposal, and based on the entire proposal, it is suggesting that this might be an improved aim. And then it explains like why this aim is better, because it clearly states what will be achieved. It uses precise. You can go that. So after that, it goes to the problem statement. It says, well, the current introduction broadly describes, but then typically it sees some issues. It says that it lacks a concise, compelling lead-in that clearly states the specific knowledge gap. And it also misses a clear articulation of the challenge that it will uniquely address. So then it comes up with an improved introduction. This one, it's a bit longer text. After that, it will look at the specific objectives. It found some improvement scope there as well. It will go through novelty and significance. It will look at feasibility, impact. So it has a series of things, and then it starts to put everything that it has found into a narrative. So like, how could you create an effective narrative with these different changes? So it put the updated objectives in here. It put the updated main aim into this. So it pays some attention on structure and detail of the detailed project description as well, about methodological detail. And of course, you can always like ask it to go deeper into these things. And now it starts to look at it as a critical reviewer. So now it does as if it is a critical reviewer, and it will come up with like an assessment. In this case, relatively short. You can ask it for a longer one. So after that, you can ask your own follow-up questions. Actually, if you go all the way up to the help and instructions, you will see a few example prompts that you like can think of. Like, let's take this first one. You can almost always put in like, I find it easy to explain the impact on my own field of research, but the broader impact, that's a bit hard. So let's take that one. We can just put it in there, and then we send that. So now you're actually having a conversation like you would have with the standard AI as well, except that this one has like specific knowledge about proposal writing. So like you get a number of suggestions here, and then it depends very much on exactly what you want to do with this. So yeah, after that, once you press download the conversation, you will get a text file with this conversation as you see it here, and that will also delete all the documents from the server. So once you press that one, your session is over and stuff is deleted. Nothing is left on the servers. So essentially, you have a tool here that very quickly generates feedback that is essentially like copy paste to the researcher that you're helping. And you have your hands and your time free for like getting into deeper, more strategic things, more sophisticated comments. Of course, like, you may not agree with everything. You can ask it for a second opinion. You can put it through it once more. You can modify things yourself because it's all just like plain text coming out. Good. So what do we think? Like, is it time for questions, or should I give you some login credentials so you can try this for yourself? What?
I think we go for questions first.
Okay. In the meantime, perhaps I can just put the login credentials in and the website address in the chat.
If you click on Q&A, there is one question from Carrie. And everybody else, we are welcome to put your questions in the Q&A rather than in a chat.
Her question is, my understanding is that ChatGPT retains knowledge acquired from chats. Therefore, could they reference the science data within the application, within an application? Is that now the case here?
Well, if you read their user agreement for this type of usage, then no, they do not use the information in these proposals. Like, they're not accessing them, they're not storing them. Of course, like, whether we can trust them on that or not, that's another question. But at least per user agreement, that should not be happening.
I think I have a question from from me. What the usual question in terms of any AI tool, it's bias, right? So how have you make sure that you train specifically to exclude certain bias? Have you, even in the training, observe anything specific? Or
Well, if I answer that, I think the most pronounced bias, which I also talked about, but that is perhaps little of concern, is that by itself AI is made to be very positive and optimistic, and when it comes to this tool, it's important that it is not. So substantial effort went into getting it to be critical, not too critical. You can't just say like reject everything, but so that is one thing. Otherwise, like much of what we put in is like still anonymous, and we try to put in from like all the fields of research we could get our hands on, but also both applied and like purely scientific. So we have really been trying to make a balanced tool. But if somebody is using it and experiencing that it might be biased in some way, we'd of course be very happy to hear, because like we try to come up with a just a
But I
very
guess
functional
the
tool.
bias that we can see is what we have taught it to do. So we have ideas on how to write a good application, so that we have sort of put into the tool, and that is sort of a bias as well. But the good thing is that if you're not happy with the thing that is coming out, you can always discuss with it and ask it more questions and say, you don't like that, you want another approach, and then you get that as well.
Another question I have, just kind of how to use the tool, because you said you can upload your proposal and then basically everything gets deleted, the whole story, so you cannot like go in and follow up. So is there any way you can set up maybe account and have
Yes.
your data store? Yeah.
Depends on what you mean there.
Yeah, so technically we could create that. Technically, we haven't done that. Like if people want that, we can probably develop it. But it seemed like that most research managers were mainly concerned about like things staying somewhere and wanted to see it disappear rather than saving it. Our experience is that individual researchers seem to be less concerned than research managers. So some people say, yes, but we cannot, well, ask the researcher you're helping, and like the person may not have so much of a problem with things being sent. Like there are some people who absolutely do not want to use AI, no matter where it goes. They just don't want. Well, then of course we respect that, and we don't use any such tools in those cases, right? But if you cannot like just a priori assume that everybody will be fine with it, you can still ask individual researchers, like, would you like to have a lot of feedback quickly? Well, do you have anything against us using AI? And most of them don't care too much. They just seem to be more interested in getting quality feedback quickly.
But you can always store or save the conversation and then upload it again, so you can continue your conversation with AI. So you don't really have to store it online on the server.
Yeah, and another question I have, because many of us have access to, to ChatGPT, can create own GPTs or, agent, so many different platforms. What will be the difference in someone would say, okay, I put all my proposals in, put maybe some comments from the past, and I do it myself. What would be the difference between someone doing this way and going and using your tool?
Well, largely how critical it is, and also how much insight it has in the process. So we tried, of course, as well with just using a GPT, and it tends to be too optimistic, but even if you tell it that it shouldn't be, it still doesn't really know what typically works and what doesn't. So of course it can filter out, like if you made a complete mess of your proposal, it can probably like see that and suggest some improvements, but it doesn't like have a deep knowledge of what kind of narrative tends to work, what level of detail reviewers expect in a particular proposal, what kind of like level of risk mitigation is like expected in this particular case. So it also means that our tool is developed for like individual projects. It is not developed for instance, like establishing a center of excellence where like many people, that's a different type of, so it still can be of some use, but the further away you move from what it is intended for, the more it will start to behave as like any kind of generic AI. Right? So especially when it comes to like the bulk of research projects, which is individual projects, this like is clearly having more expert insight.
Okay, I think we have one something in the chat rather than in Q&A from her. I just uploaded one of my rejected proposal and I found it really useful. The feedback it gave me was very detailed, even more thorough than the review as well.
There you go. That's what we see all the time. And you have an example from a researcher at your university, Folmer.
Yeah, no, that researcher may actually be slightly biased because he actually got the money, but already before he got the money, he said that this was spot on, and that was a researcher like full professor and like had been on review panels himself several times. So it's not that he was new to the process, but many people we helped with this tool, or they say that like even if you see it for others' proposals, reviewing your own is difficult. Now, as research managers, many of you will easily spot common mistakes, but for you, it takes time to relay that to the researchers. So I think this is kind of a useful thing for both researchers and research managers. It just speeds up the basic things very much. So hey, thanks a lot for the heads up here. I think like one thing that may be good to point out is that in the case of many funders, you don't get the full review report. So oftentimes the review report first goes to a panel and you get like a statement by the panel, but not necessarily what the individual reviewers had to say about it. And sometimes panels don't even use external reviewers, and those are relatively like brief, concise statements that you get. So of course we try to develop our tool in such a way that it will give extensive feedback rather than just concise, because even when it's acting as a reviewer, it's still actually acting as somebody trying to help you.
Thank you. Do you have final like do's and don'ts that you just realize with a lot of people using it, that you can mention it to everyone?
I think you had it that use it for what is produced, what we've done it for, individual research proposals, and do not try to use it for other types of applications. And also have a lot of conversation with it. Don't just accept what is coming out. Ask more questions. See if you can tune it to become even better. If the aim is too long, point that out and say that you want it even sharper, even shorter, and you get more examples.
And you can ask it, like it can be good, like often it provides an explanation for its comments. If it doesn't, you can ask it for like why, and like it can then give you some background as to, it will often say like, okay, so successful proposals typically, and then it explains, and then rejected ones typically. So you get a bit of a background. It's a bit of a pedagogical tool in that way. Some people have had some technical issues. As I said, I myself had some technical issues. Sometimes you have to wait like 10 minutes. That doesn't seem to be something on our server. It rather seems to be the communication with the OpenAI server. And some people said that the tool, it doesn't always recognize that you uploaded, for instance, the instructions for authors. But then it's important to remember that it needs to have certain file types. So these file types are listed there. Providing a URL to an HTML page is not going to work. It has to be a PDF. So perhaps I have to build in something so that it actually warns you if you try to do that. But like otherwise, I think people have been pretty happy with using this.
Perfect, thank you. So I'm just wondering, just open your website. So how individual researchers or institution can work with you?
How they can do that?
Yes,
You
how they can contact you? How does it work, if you can let us know?
Well, they can arrange it themselves through the website, but they can always send us an email, and we can discuss directly with them to see which level is the best for them and how they can use the tool in the best way for their university or their team or their research managers.
Perfect. So is this available for free?
You can test it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then there are different levels and how much questions you can ask, how much you can upload. If you are an individual, if you are a grants office, support office, or if you're a whole university also.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of different options. I can actually put that page into the chat, but essentially, like if you're a researcher, you have some relatively cheap options to just like have it for a short while. If you're a research manager, like the price for checking like a lot of proposals, say the price for checking 250 proposals is what we typically would use for like one-on-one feedback on a single proposal. So universities, like if it comes to ERC proposals, for instance, like approximately 1,000 euros per single proposal is not a strange sum. For us, like if you want to upload 250 proposals, that is 1,000 euros. So in that sense, like we allow you to quickly go through more than 200 proposals for a price that universities typically pay for a single one. So looking at that way, I think it's pretty cheap. That I don't think that should keep people away. And if you're somewhere in the developing world, 1,000 euros is of course still a large sum. Send us an email and we can talk.
Great, sounds good. Okay, I think we are nearing the end of our session. Any final words, maybe looking in the future? How do you see the tool developing, and how do you see it's going to support the changing environment around application, around funding?
We're working on a new version that will be even better. And that will be soon ready, I think. But we see this as a tool that can be really important for democratizing the application business, really, because most of the researchers, they don't have access to support. And this is an easy and quick way and cheap way of getting real good support to everyone out there.
So the next version, like there are a few issues. Like if you train a GPT to act as a grumpy reviewer, it is automatically not very good anymore at writing very rich language. So the next one will have more of an agentic behavior where different tasks are like weighted against each other. So it will just be a bit smarter. It will also be a version that is more tuned towards specific funders. So now we have still one that is relatively generic, even though you can upload specific call texts. So we will have one that does a bit more thinking and it will be a bit more specific. But in particular, like what we experienced was that research support was very much oriented towards a relatively small number of elite researchers who wrote for prestigious grants, and very many researchers, if they didn't happen to have a supervisor, a professor, or a head of department who was willing to like share this kind of insight or pay for these kind of services, they would never learn it. So the first thing we did was develop these workshops, which are a lot of fun, but then we could like help a whole group of people for roughly the same price it would otherwise be to help like 3 or 4 people. But now, of course, with this AI, that is even more extreme. We can help lots of people with this tool because it is so accessible. So we see it as like, and the other aspect of that, we can try to make it more accessible, but also research offices, research support offices may have to rethink how they're working. Because for most universities, a lot of money comes through individual grants. And it is not so that the people who write those are the best specialists in knowing how these proposals should be written. Like many of those people, even if they're full professors, they need help. So yeah, we think this may change a bit how like work is being done in research support offices.
But the research managers will never be superfluous. They always be needed, but they can work with other things, more strategic level, which is also very important, and which they do not perhaps have time to do at this time.
Yes, and like one aspiring customer of us had this quote that many people said, like, you will not be replaced by AI. You will be replaced by people who know how to use AI. So in that sense, I think that is very much true here. Like if you can use this tool, you just have way more possibilities than if you don't use this tool.
Exactly. I totally agree. This is, using AI, it's a mass using tools that can help us. It's necessity because we are all very, very busy. Applications are highly competitive, and getting a little help of AI, it's absolutely wonderful. Okay, we have, let me just see if we have one last question, otherwise in the chat. Okay, Carrie, it's dropping off. Thank you so much for being here, Carrie. So we will wrap up our session today. Thank you very much, Anders and Folmer, for presenting your tool. I encourage everyone to use it to spread the word. And we see each other in exactly 1 month for another session, a little bit different. But this is the last AI tool demo for in this year. Okay, everyone, I wish you a wonderful afternoon, evening. I think this is it. I don't know whoever, from whatever time zones you are joining. And thank you so much for Folmer and Anders for the presentation.
Thank you so much for having us. A great opportunity.
Yeah, thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.